Hello photography family, Todd Peak of Peak Photography, and I hope you're having a great day. Hey, today we're going to begin our 4-part series on the exposure triangle. Hey, listen, even if you're using your camera in auto mode, the exposure triangle is going to help you take better pictures. But I want to get you out of auto mode. So grab your camera, maybe a snack or two, and come on, let's get this tutorial started. Shutter speed, aperture, and ISO. They're the foundations of photography. Understanding these will transform your pictures. Now let me give you an example that'll help you visualize how these elements work together. If you've ever played baseball, you need 3 things.
We got a pitcher, a catcher, and a fielder.
Well, I mean, these 3 things. You need a baseball, you need a glove, and you need a bat. Without those, it's going to be a weird game. Just like in photography, these things work together much the same way. The goal is of a photographer to get the picture in focus and exposed correctly. That exposure goal is what we're going to talk about today. Now, earlier this week, I got to go downtown and grab a bite for dinner. Delta Blues is a great new barbecue place in Bristol. It's quickly becoming a favorite of mine. The atmosphere, it's almost as good as the barbecue. I was early enough to beat the biggest part of the rush, and shout out to the team at Delta Blues. They let me take some pictures while I was there. I'll use some of the pictures in my future episode in Understanding ISO. We'll use a couple of them again here today, but they didn't sponsor the video. Man, I wish they would. I'd love some barbecue right now. But if you're in downtown Bristol, stop by Delta Blues. You'll be glad you did. And thanks again, guys, for being so inviting. And now that I'm hungry, let's dig in. I mean, dig into this video. Getting the correct exposure requires shutter speed, aperture, also called f-stop, and ISO to work together. So let's look at these 3 and get a basic definition to help us understand what they are. Shutter speed is the length of time when the film or the digital sensor inside the camera is exposed to light. The shutter, it's like a window that very quickly exposes the sensor to light. The amount of light that reaches the sensor, it's proportional to the exposure time. So 1/500th of a second will let in half as much light as 1/250th of a second. Or for my fractionally challenged friends, 1 second will let in half as much light as 2 seconds. Too much light causes the image to be overexposed, because too much light was let into the image. Not enough light causes the image to be underexposed. In these 2 images, the only change was shutter speed, and it's clear how much the shutter speed affects the exposure of the image. In addition to its effects on exposure, the shutter speed changes the way movement appears in the image. A fast shutter speed can be used to freeze fast-moving subjects. Like in a sporting event, a slow shutter speed is used to intentionally blur a fast-moving subject. These 2 images show clearly which image was taken with a fast shutter speed, freezing the motion, and which was taken with a slower shutter speed, causing the image to blur because of the action of the athletes. Next week's tutorial will be completely dedicated to shutter speed. We're going to go into a lot more depth then, but for today's overview, let's keep on moving. An aperture is a hole or an opening through which the light travels. The aperture of the lens limits the amount of light that can reach the image sensor of the film plane. It's similar to the shutter speed in that it helps determine the amount of light into the camera, but the aperture also determines the depth of field of the image. So what does that mean? Well, this image is a great visual to help us understand depth of field. The focus is on one line of text. The text in front of the focal point and the text behind the focal point, they're out of focus. This is because this is a very shallow depth field. Now, let's look at this in a real life situation. I used a depth of field not only to get the statue in focus, but using a deep depth of field, I get the background and the trees in focus as well. But if I use the shallow depth of field, I get the microphone in focus, but the rest of the background is nice and blurry. The blur, it's called bokeh, and it's beautiful. Here's how you dial it in. The image shows how the aperture is adjusted within the lens. The numerical value is referred to as the f-stop. The lower the f-stop number, the more light is allowed into the image. Also, the lower the f-stop number, the shallower the depth of field. So an f-stop of 1.4 would be great for a portrait session where you're wanting the person in focus, but the background to be nice and blurry. But if you're wanting to get an image like this one, you definitely don't want a shallow depth of field. You want the entire image to be in focus. So for this image, you'd choose a much higher f-stop. This image, for example, was shot on f9. So obviously there's a lot more to the story with aperture and f-stops. But have no fear, we'll cover these in depth in a few weeks. Now ISO, believe it or not, is not an abbreviation. It's actually derived from the International Organization for Standardization. What it really is a system for qualifying the sensitivity or speed of a digital camera's image sensor to the visible light. The lower the ISO, the cleaner the image. But the higher the ISO, the more noise or grain you introduce to the image. But with a higher ISO, you can also lose dynamic range and lose the depth of your color in your image. As I was eating at Delta Blues, I saw the perfect opportunity to get some examples of how the ISO affects the image. You see here in pictures A, B, and C. Picture A, this was at ISO 100. It's nice and clean. Picture B, it's at ISO 5000. But picture C, it's at ISO 32,000. When you zoom out, all the pictures really look okay. But when you zoom in, you can see the noise introduced into the image. So here's the thing. I've given you a lot of information in this video, but it's really just an introduction to the exposure triangle. Listen, I don't want you to get overwhelmed. Keep in mind, once you understand these elements, you're well on your way. I've attached a link to my exposure triangle below. Download it, print it out, go out, take some pictures, and see how making the changes to each one of these elements changes the exposure of the image. Special thanks again to Delta Blues and to Danny Dorsey for videoing me at the ball game. You'll get to see a lot more from Danny Dorsey Photography in the future. If you've learned something today, or if you want to learn more, like this video, share it with your friends, and don't forget to subscribe for weekly content, and hit that bell if you want to be notified of new tutorials as they drop. I'm so glad that you've joined me today. Thanks for watching, and as always, I'll see you in the next video.